What's up, guys? It's April 6th, 2021. Happy Easter, happy Passover, whatever traditions you follow for the spring season. Have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful set of advice for you. Get rid of the candy. Get rid of the candy and stop eating the carbs. Why? Because the variants are coming. And if you're obese, you could die. That's right, there's no joke here. The Brazilian variant is lighting British Columbia on fire, and it is the youngest adults who are suffering the most. Anyone remember 1918? I do. Today, vaccines, variants, and vets on Murphy's Medical Minute. All right, I don't know if any of you had the chance, holy cow, I had to rewind everything. I don't know how many of you are baseball fans, but I'm a big baseball fan. In fact, a massive baseball fan. No, I don't need to restart my updates. So I'm a massive baseball fan. And I was at the Yankee game last night, and I obtained entrance based on my vaccination. That's right, I received J&J over 14 days ago, and therefore I was able to go to the baseball game. I'm happy with that, and I'm happy that I'm vaccinated. And frankly, we're gonna need more vaccinations because the variants are out there. Today, we're gonna review a little bit of issues, a little bit of update, some housekeeping, so to speak, on the variants and on new data out. And I will say I was wrong, or maybe a little wrong about the variants and vaccine escape, at least when it comes to the B.1.526 variant isolated in South Africa. So without further ado, we are at it. Today's date's April 6th, 2021. Variants, vaccines, and veterinarians. That's right. What? Yes, here we go. So one of the things I've been hypercritical of is the New York Times, and that's because they deserve a critical eye, because they put out data that unfortunately is misleading. It's misleading, but one thing that they haven't misled with is the truly factual data about the vaccines. We can see here that multiple vaccines are taking shots on goal. We have 50 vaccines in the hopper. 50 vaccines in the hopper, including a vaccine made of sugar needles. A sugar needle vaccine, 400 needles made of sugar, will dissolve in your arm in a patch made by the University of Pittsburgh. I'm a Penn Stater, and we have a lot of sayings about people from Pitt. But I'm not going to get into that today. So we now have 8 approved vaccines, 5 authorized vaccines, and we will continue to get more vaccines approved. We also are beginning to recognize the fact that pets can get COVID-19. What we haven't studied, unfortunately, is whether Rover will bring COVID over to our children or to us. We don't quite understand that. In addition, we have to look at Canada's big Brazilian problem that they have, and that's the P.1 variant spreading through Whistler, spreading through the Vancouver Canucks. And the fact that we're going to see the BC province on fire, just like Brazil was on fire with the Brazilian variant. Lastly, I'll mention a little briefly about Walgreens. Saying that they can't write a computer program that distinguishes between Moderna or Pfizer. So, we'll just push everyone out 4 weeks on their vaccine. Right? Another week, another black eye, another variant, and that's the Indian variant. So let's talk first about the vaccines. First, some housekeeping on the vaccines, in this case, Pfizer, right? And I go back to Mark Twain, lies, lies, and damn statistics. With BC's problem with the P.1 variant, we have to ask ourselves, how soon is it going to get into Seattle? What's the data on P.1? What's the data on P.1 for Pfizer? It's being held back. We obviously know that it's there. We know that P.1 is a Brazilian variant that has E484K in it, but it also so does the South African variant. A press release was put out by Pfizer saying that, we're 100% preventative against B.1.351. Well, let me tell you a little something. Lies, lies, and damn statistics. You did not have a big enough study to say that you are effective against the South African variant at the rate that you have. The confidence interval would be through the roof. The statistical significance is very soft. And so, congratulations, press release. I'm going to wait until we get full data on this. However, the 12,000 patient subgroup analysis shows that with wild type or B.1.1.7, that the Pfizer data induces an immunity that's producing neutralizing antibodies for 6 months. That's awesome. With 76 million shots given so far and a 6-month-old to 11-year-old study underway, Pfizer's doing great. But I have to tell you right now, if you're holding back data that should be released in the public, stop trying to smooth your data. Get it out. We need to know. We need to know. If you have data on P.1, we got to know it, because we need to put that vaccine in people's arms if it's protective. Next, Moderna. What don't we know? Coverage for P.1. What else don't we know? Effective coverage for B.1.351. So now Moderna is a 200-person study and they're enrolling. In vitro lab data for Moderna, you can see here, is poor, right? Look above you. It is poor. 69 million shots have been given and the child studies are underway. Don't hold back the data, Moderna. Don't do it. We need to know. We need to know what's going on. Next, Johnson & Johnson, or Janssen. So, what is the coverage for the Brazilian P.1 variant with J&J? 68%. 68%. That's right, 68% efficacy. What is the B.1.351 variant efficacy? 64%. 64%. We have good coverage for the Johnson & Johnson vaccine here, right? We've got some Brazilian updates. We've got some South African B.1.351 variant updates. Johnson & Johnson is going all in on efficacy against the variants. So I have to say, what are we doing? What are we doing, J&J? You get tripped out of the gate twice now. Twice now, tripped out of the gate. J&J is working on their child studies now. They've just increased or decreased the age of their current study down to 11 years old, which is very good news. Very good news for all of us. The problem is a Baltimore factory mixed up AstraZeneca and J&J vaccine. Therefore, the United States kicks AstraZeneca and the UK vaccine out of the factory and installs Johnson & Johnson in full control of the Baltimore factory. Good. The J&J vaccine, I believe, is a superior vaccine in this case. It has the pre-fusion confirmation. J&J data has the most. J&J data is the most robust for the variants. It is the best coverage for the variants that we know currently, and it's one shot. One shot. We know that the variants are increasing out here in the East Coast. We know B.1.1.7 is rampant. We know in New York City that B.1.525/526 is growing in New York City. I have to assume that the pre-fusion confirmation is going to work well for that E484K mutation, and we are damn hopeful that it's going to work for the Los Angeles variant. However, we know that the Los Angeles variant is escaping quite a bit here. It's escaping quite a bit here. The AstraZeneca vaccine, guess what? EMA, the European Medicines Association, is now leaking the trial balloon that the data is clear, that there's a link between the post-confirmation vaccine, spike vaccine, AstraZeneca. Right? AstraZeneca failed to use the stabilized 2-proline spike protein design. Therefore, they are suffering. And it appears they made the wrong choice. We have no mechanism currently as of yet why the AstraZeneca vaccine may be causing these cavernous sinus venous thromboses. We don't know. There are 20 million shots given worldwide of this vaccine, plus minus a couple, and the EMA has said carry on despite the risk because the risk is low. The risk here is for cavernous sinus venous thrombosis, but also the risk is lack of coverage for B.1.351. And we can see that Brazil has approved AstraZeneca. Where's the data? Where's the data on P.1 AstraZeneca? This is crazy. We can't hold this stuff back. If you're approved in a country and you're giving shots, you obviously are going to have some of this data. And to not have it or not put it forward is poor form. And what I think is going to happen is that the AstraZeneca vaccine will probably not protect against P1 effectively. Next up, Mothra. Mothra, that's right, the Novavax phase 3 spike protein vaccine with the adjuvant is currently underway. It's a 2-shot regimen that we see. We have data on Novavax for B.1.351 and for the UK variant. GlaxoSmithKline is manufacturing Novavax in the UK. And one of the best things about this vaccine is it is stabilized in the refrigerator. That's right, refrigeration. This may be the vaccine that the world needs. I thought AstraZeneca might be that, but with these cavernous thromboses, you have a little bit of risk. You worry about the shadiness of it that's going on. Novavax may be the winner here. Novavax may be the winner. But not to be outdone with the press buffoonery going on with AstraZeneca and J&J. We have Gamaleya's Sputnik vaccine and their Twitter account talking about how amazing coverage the Sputnik vaccine has against the South African variant B.1.351. Guess what? I don't care what Twitter says. It is crystal clear that there is neutralization escape by the B.1.351 variant. South African variant, again, escapes, no matter what Gamaleya says. End of story. Why? Guess what? Gamaleya also failed to use the stabilized 2-proline spike design in their adenoviral vector vaccine. As we begin to study more of this, and we appreciate the biochemistry of it, it's crystal clear that stabilized prefusion spike protein is the superior design. And all vaccine manufacturers, all of these 50 designers, should be rapidly pivoting to that 2-proline stabilized variant. Not to be outdone, and I have a little advice for Russia. Focus on the pets. That's right. Russia has registered the first coronavirus vaccine for animals. We know that the COVID variants now can infect mice. We know that they can infect mice. So Russia, here's a hint. Maybe you need to work on pre-fusion confirmation stabilization. Maybe we need to do that with the pet vaccine that should be launched mid-April. That's right, mid-April. Milo, Luna, Rover, Murphy, Pepper, whatever pet name you got. Time to vax them up. Why? We don't know whether Red Rover, let COVID come over is going to happen or not. And frankly, we need to be really concerned about that. We need to be concerned that our pets can bring us variants of concern. Why? Because that could be a reservoir enabling the variants to continue to mutate. Why does that matter? Variants, especially this P.1 variant that was isolated in Brazil, is not just a Brazilian problem. We can see that the Brazilian death here is massive, right? Deaths are spiking. It appears that this variant is killing younger adults. Threefold increase in death relative to the elderly population with P.1. P.1 also manages to escape neutralization in the laboratory by Pfizer and by Moderna. And until Pfizer and Moderna can produce some real data for us on P.1, I have to act as if the only effective vaccines here are the J&J and the Novavax vaccine. Here's the problem with the Brazilian variant. It hits the trifecta. I think if you look back on our variant lectures, you will see the following, right? You'll see the following. Variants become variants because, one, they can have an increased infectivity. That means they're more likely to be transmitted. Two, they have an increased virulence. That means they are more likely to kill you or to cause your body to kill yourself. And third, a variant of interest and concern can escape immunity or has reduced immunization prevention. P.1 has all of these. It's more deadly, it's more transmissive, and it escapes vaccination. It is the trifecta. So what do you need to know about the issue out on the West Coast in BC? If Vancouver has P.1, if it's spreading through British Columbia, it's only a matter of time before it ends up in Seattle. I don't know if any of you have been to Vancouver, and I don't know if any of you have been to Seattle, but they're a hop, skip, and a jump away. They are not far from each other, and people go back and forth in these sister cities all the time. All the time. So it's only a matter of time before we get P.1 out west. Out east, we have B.1.1.7 and B.1.526. We can see the New York City variant is spreading. We have a little preliminary data that Pfizer can treat B.1.526. I want to thank NYU and Langone for the data that came out. There was very good data. We'll need to see replications, obviously, but it's very good data. It's reassuring that perhaps the pre-fusion stabilized spike protein design is the winner in vaccination here. Variants are going to complicate vaccination. There's no doubt about it. Veterinarians need to pay close attention and study pet to human transmission. They need to partner with the CDC effectively to be able to report on this data. I think that we have to have better tests for pets. As we push tests for people in their home, we should be testing pets. It appears that the pre-fusion spike protein is the champion for vaccination currently in our real-world studies, in our real-world experiments. There's no way around it. We're going to need boosters for these variants, especially the P.1 variant, just like we do for seasonal influenza. There's no doubt about this. But perhaps my biggest concern today, is that pets are reservoirs and are potentially a really big problem here. We're going to need to vet this out. We're going to need to evaluate this. We're going to need to know the data about our pets. We need to know the data about our pets. And this is really interesting as the puppy craze took off in the beginning of this pandemic. Remember the puppy craze? You guys remember the puppy craze that happened? Right? It was a pretty significant puppy craze. Dogs everywhere. I remember. Oh, we got to get a dog. We got to get a breeder. And now we all have vectors for COVID. I don't want to spook anyone else out about this. I really don't. I don't want to get too crazy about it. But I do want to be mindful. I think we really need to pay attention to pet testing, whether it's by antigen testing or PCR. I think we need to be serious as physicians about zoonotic infections. Go figure. zoonotic infections. Today is April 6th. A lot of curveballs still coming our way. We've been at COVID testing for 13 months now. And I want to say I'm very proud that our tests at Murphy Medical Associates and our team at coronatestct.com, we've received the very first, that's right, the first FDA approved test for COVID. Fully approved, FDA approved. The BioFire RP 2.1 is the first fully FDA approved test for COVID-19. So to all your insurance companies that are denying our claims, saying it's experimental, it's not experimental. We see who you are. We know your games. Justice is on our side. We will continue to test, treat, isolate, and trace, taking care of all of the patients in the tri-state area using the best test, the FDA-approved test, the BioFire RP 2.1. That's right, guys. Today is a beautiful day. I want you to get outside. I want you to exercise. I want you to eat right. I want you to go search up Nick Norwitz. Nick Norwitz is a fantastic PhD who is now studying to be a physician. Has a tremendous story. You can find it on Twitter or on YouTube. Nick Norwitz basically reverses his IBD with food. Because food is medicine, food is fuel. Food can be fun if you eat the right stuff. Don't break your body. Your body is made to be well. So be well. Go exercise, go get some sun. Have a great day. Enjoy your April 6th. This is Dr. Murphy, Murphy Medical Associates, and our team at coronatestct.com. You just watched the Murphy Medical Minute.
With